Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we continue our series of why each Primarch deserves to be recognised as the greatest, with the avenging son, Roboute Guilliman. General spoiler warning to begin, as today we will be referencing events from across the Warhammer 40k universe. So you have been warned, and with that said, let's waste no time and just jump straight in. Now, for many Primarchs within this series, we'd be talking of a singular feat of strength, a moment of sacrifice, or perhaps the potential that they possessed within, the role and reason for their creation. However, there is only one, who has had to shoulder the burden and responsibility for the entire Imperium, not once, but twice. In the wake of the Horus heresy, Roboute Guilliman would assume the role of Lord Commander from his brother Rogal Dorn. And indeed, given Rogal's comments within the heresy, it appeared Guilliman may well have always been intended for it, or at least Rogal viewed his brother as the better suited choice. And for all the theme of revenge of an Imperium fightback that gets given to the Scouring, let's not forget just what kind of situation it truly was. The Imperium had been absolutely ravaged by the War Master, the loyal legions largely decimated in number, Primarchs fallen, the throne world, the palace in a ruin, and Malcador and the Emperor gone. And you cannot overstate that last fact enough. The two figureheads of the Imperium, the two guiding lights, the man who not only unified the species, but whose entire vision and dream the whole thing was, gone. And it was into that void that Roboute Guilliman stepped. Sure, he had his remaining brothers to help with the fighting, but do we really think any of them were instrumental in helping Guilliman rebuild and restructure the Imperium in the heresy's aftermath? I don't think so. As I've said before, the Scouring was Guilliman's time to shine. Not only would he shore up the borders of the Imperium once more, but he would implement changes such as the Codex Astartes to ensure it survived for another 10,000 years, that another heresy could never transpire, even at his own detriment, losing control of his one-time largest legion, because that was the right decision to make. And then after that 10,000 years, he would do it all over again, this time without any of his brothers present to help him, and with the very galaxy cloven in two. Fully half the Imperium would be lost to Guilliman upon his return, and the half he did have would be immersed in chaos. Literally, the tides of the ruinous powers running rampant across the galaxy. Yet Guilliman would face the carnage to reach Terra, to ensure it still stood, that his father still lived, facing down his traitorkin Magnus and greater demon alike to make it there. And as he did 10,000 years earlier, Guilliman would restructure the Imperium to suit this new era, and launch his great fight back from the throne world itself, pulling together his immense gamble of the Indomitus Crusade, a final roll of the dice to save humanity. And through his strategic brilliance and sheer resolve, he would claw humanity back from the brink of extinction, stabilizing Imperium Sanctus and cleansing the rot of the Imperium's leadership. And now he stands poised to reclaim the other half, the Dark Imperium, and reunite with his brother, Lionel Johnson. No, Guilliman hasn't had a sacrifice of Sanguinius in his history, A monumental, climactic victory over a fellow Primarch, such as Leman Russ on Prospero. But you cannot deny he has saved the Imperium twice, used the talents of his mind as he was intended. He wasn't made to be an executioner, a psychic powerhouse. He was made to build and run empires, to administrate, adapt, better than any other. It might not sound as epic, but the results speak for themselves. You could argue Guilliman was lucky to land upon the idyllic world of Macragge, be brought up and educated by the privilege of Connor. But it's what Guilliman did with that matters. By the time the Emperor found him, he had expanded the borders of Ultramar to be a truly galactic spanning empire, a jewel and beacon to the Imperium of what life could and should be. Within the Great Crusade, Guilliman's record of conquest was behind only Horus Lupercal himself. And let's not forget, Horus was first found. He was there from the very beginning. If I remember correctly, he had a full 30 years alone by his father's side, leading his legion across the galaxy before the first of his brothers, Russ, was found. Had all the Primarchs been ready from the very beginning, I wouldn't bet against Guilliman claiming that top record spot. And I'm not sure it would even have been close. And Guilliman forged the Ultramarines into by far the largest legion, a force so dominant that Horus rightly feared them at the outbreak of the heresy, having to put into place specific plans to prevent Guilliman from being able to intervene, dedicating 2 whole legions and Primarchs to counter him, Lorgar and his word-bearers, and Angron and the World Eaters. The betrayal at Calth and resulting Shadow Crusade would catch Guilliman completely by surprise. But in true nature, he would respond immediately and decisively, and emerge from the traitor assault in pretty good shape, retaining most of his legion. It was really only the resulting ruin storm that prevented him from reaching Terra, and possibly preventing the siege entirely. It was the pressure of Guilliman's arrival that forced Horus Lupercal's hand. So Guilliman's reputation is well earned and deserving of respect. Now, for some, maybe the whole Imperium Secundus debacle lays a stain on that reputation, a guilt we've seen Guilliman still regret some 10,000 years later. But his intent was true. He genuinely believed he was cut off from Terra, had no way of knowing if it still stood at all, if his father still lived. The Astronomicon could not be seen, so he lit the Pharos beacon, providing a light for any other loyalist who could see it, and was determined to establish whatever stronghold of the Imperium he could, to, as he said himself, keep his father's dream alive. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it makes sense. It's only really let down by the fact that the throne world did still stand, that it really needed his help, that it all maybe gives the impression he wasn't trying to get there, setting up his own empire instead. The very reason why L. Johnson went to Ultramar. But again, that was never Roboute's intent. He was doing what he always did, putting a counter strategy in place. You could argue, were it not for Guilliman lighting the Pharos beacon, the Blood Angels and Sanguinius may never have even made it to Terra, remaining lost amid the ruin storm for the entirety of the heresy. How different it could have all ended if that had transpired. So maybe in a strange way, Guilliman's Imperium Secundus secured the Imperium's victory. However, regardless, it's undoubted he battered his way through every single piece of traitor defense to reach the throne world as soon as he could. So honestly, which Primarch can live up to the record of Roboute Guilliman, saviour of the Imperium twice, shouldering the burden of the entire race, a mantle only his father was supposed to bear, founder of his own empire that still stands 10,000 years later, a jewel of the Imperium, crafter of the largest legion, and undoubtedly would have had the best record had he not been found later. A man who has never taken a backward step against any obstacle, perhaps not winning, but facing up against Conrad Kurz, Lorgar, and Angron, his demon-elevated brothers Fulgrim, Mortarion, Magnus the Red, and at this point we believe holds a victory during the Scouring over Omegon. So when you simply look at the black and white of it, Guilliman is every inch that legendary figure I marvelled at as a kid, when I spent countless hours poring through the Ultramarines 2nd edition Codex, where Guilliman was stated to be the saviour of the Imperium, which, honestly, he still is now. And perhaps he quite rightly deserves to be recognised as the greatest Primarch for it. But as always everyone, what do you think? Is Roboute Guilliman the greatest Primarch of all? Does his record speak for itself? Is he undoubtedly the saviour of the Imperium? And does he deserve to be recognised as the greatest for it? As always, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.